Good evening and welcome to the shores of Lake Garda. I'm Charlie Bosco, alongside me as ever Mike Langley, and tonight very special guest Sasha Geo, and we're live in Arco. Sitting at the northern end of Lake Garda, Arco is a name that has long been associated with climbing competitions. The town itself is wonderful and has an old-fashioned feel, but somehow it manages to also be a fun and vibrant place to be at the same time. Home to 16,000 people and an equal number of sport climbing routes, Arco is a place that has been graced by some of the biggest names in climbing, and it remains a truly legendary town for anybody who loves our sport. To win on the famous overhangs of Arco is still one of the great goals of any competitor. And Stasha, you haven't been competing in the Lead World Cup, you've been competing in the Masters Boulder event, but Arco is a very special place, isn't it?
It is. I always like coming here, and I've come here since the 2007 when I started competing in the Rock Junior, and now I think it's my 10th year that I'm here, and I always enjoy coming to Arco, especially now thanks to Mr. Angelo, who invites me now for the second time in for the Rockmaster Boulder contest. And yeah, my second time commentating this World Cup finals.
Yeah, it's like deja vu. Did the last year really happen?
Yes, it did. Yeah, it's always amazing to be here because I feel like at home, you know, this feeling when you're walking through the streets and you just wave to everybody because you know literally every single person that's sitting in the cafes and so on. I feel so domestic, and I think every climber does. That's why I love coming here.
Oh, it's fantastic. If you ever come to Arco on holiday, during the Rockmaster weekend and the World Cup weekend, you need to bring a big autograph book. It's a who's who of climbing in the pizzerias. And Mike, in the semi-finals earlier on, we saw two hard routes. You've had a look at the finals routes. What have we got in store?
Yeah, when we spoke to the head route setter earlier in the semi-finals, they really wanted to get a result in that semi-final. Ultimately, they did get a result. Not necessarily the best way to get there. A lot of ties, especially in the women's, going through into the final. So they got a really, really tough job. They said they wanted to put on a show. I think they've done that. The routes look really cool. They've got a lot of volumes on there. They've really hit this modern style. They've hit the aesthetics nail on the head. But whether it'll work out for the results, time's going to tell. But we're really close to the presentation of the athletes and the start of the competition.
Yes, and there is your start list in the men's final. As ever, the finals will be split, but in the men's competition it will be two Japanese climbers out first, the only two Japanese climbers in the men's or women's final, so 2 out of 16 by their standards, a relatively low ratio. It'll be Yoshiyuki Ogata and Kochira Koranaga. Jakob Schreiber will follow them out. We'll be looking forward to seeing him in another World Cup final. Hannes Puman, he had a superb moment in the semi-finals earlier on, set a high point very early on, and it stayed that way for a long time. He was eventually beaten by Thomas Johan, Max Rdiger of Austria, some guy called Adam Ondra, and some other guy called Alex Megos. I've been told they're quite handy. I think there's a few people looking forward to seeing them. So that's your men's starting 8. In the women's competition, first out onto the stage at Arco, where she won the double of Youth World Champion in Bouldering and lead, was Ashima Shirashi. Of course, she repeated that feat in Guangzhou in November last year. She'll be out first. She'll be followed by Molly Thompson-Smith and Sophie Collar of France. Jessie Piltz, she's been 5th in every World Cup so far, qualified 5th in the semi-finals today. Julia Chanaudy will be out next, followed by Jane Kim, Annette Verhoeven and Janja Garnbret. That top 3 has a very familiar feel already, and I believe we're seconds away from the presentation.
Yeah, it's a really interesting starting lineup there, and from the semi-finals it was really Alex Megos and Janja Garnbret who were ahead of the field by a fair way. Alex Megos at least 8 moves ahead of Adam Ondra, so the rock climbing legend was really showing his form in the semi-final. So we have a quick look at the overall. It is that lady Janja Garnbret leading the way. 3 wins so far for her in 2017, gives her 300 points, and it's Annette Verhoeven, Jane Kim and Jessie Pills behind her, and those 4 you will see later on tonight. I do believe it's going to be the women's finals first.
Yeah, in the overall standings, perfect start for Janja Garnbret. Annette Verhoeven's been quite vocal about the fact she wants harder routes. She certainly got one this morning, we shall see this evening. In the men's competition, Romain de Grange. Just goes to show that persistence pays. Been competing in World Cup since 2003, 2017. So far proving to be comfortably the best season of his life. Marcello Bombardi, he finished 9th in the semi-final. He won't have a chance to extend his points tally this evening. Kochira Koranaga. Domin Skofic, who also won't climb this evening. Stefano Gasolfi didn't make the final tonight. Sean McCall also not making the final. So Hannes Puman down there in 10th, who will climb this evening. And the women being introduced to the crowd. Choreography issue there for Jane Kim.
Really interesting lineup here. We have the seasoned veterans in Jane Kim, Annick Verhoeven, Janja Garnbret, even though some of them are still so young. Then you have new climbers in their first ever finals. Molly Thompson-Smith from Great Britain, first British athlete to make a finals. I think it's since 2004 in the lead. So Molly's really putting in a good turn this weekend. She's had a fantastic 2017, makes her first senior lead World Cup finals. And obviously Ashima squeezed in 8th position. Incredible effort from her to get through. When we interviewed her during the semi-finals, she really didn't think she had made it through. So an awesome effort to see Ashima, and just, Stasha, an awesome lineup ready for the finals.
Yeah, I know all of these girls from the youth stage, and I'm really happy to see Anne-Sophie Koller and Molly Thompson-Smith, because they've been frequently in finals in the youth comps, and I know they've tried really hard, although Anne-Sophie Koller was already in a few World Cup finals before. So I'm really happy to see them, and I'm looking forward to their performance. Also, we have this regular lineup, Janja and Anak and Jane Kim alongside Shadow D. Julia. Good to see Jessica back again. And of course, Ashima. It was quite of a shock on the internet when we saw that she will compete in Arco, and everybody was looking forward to this moment.
I think Ashima's one of those names. People have just been waiting for this moment, waiting for her basically to get old enough to start competing. And one man who's back to competing, last time we saw him out, was winning the World Championships, topping the final route back in Paris, Adam Ondra. Really exciting to see here. And the final climber to be announced, it's going to be the one and only Alexander Magos. Incredible performance in the semi-finals for him. So yeah, super stacked finals lineup all the way through the women's and the men's here tonight. And just look at the size difference between some of the athletes there.
You can see how Adam is huge, but
towering above everybody else.
Exactly.
And as the athletes observe the routes, we've got our chief route setter here, Adam Postelnik. Let's have a look at the routes. You pick men or women first?
Let's go for women first, as we'll be competing with women first. That's the theory. We'll be starting with women first. And the general difference between these final routes and the semi-final routes or the qualification routes is that we're talking more about routes that have kind of defined sequences that follow, and we can talk about like specific moves that do happen on the routes, and that we'll be expecting this or that type of move to be happening. And so with the green route on the left one, that's the women's route, we have a fairly easy start up to the roof, and exit of the roof is more or less an exit where you don't have any feet, and you have to mantle up on the big blue volume that we see up there. Once that stuff is done, you're kind of in a little bit of a resting position. When you do the mantle, you have to stand up almost with taking no hands on the left hand, and just try to stand up, leave the right hand off, and just reach the first of the section of the volumes. And that's the second section, blue angular volumes kept in a bit chaotic line. Going upwards to the left to right, more or less, so to say, quite a basic section, just climbing on volumes, maybe 2 or 3 underclings, 2 or 3 more faster moves. Going to the left side to the arete, where you have to toe hook, get the right hand undercling, and do a long move. I don't know if you see it on the left-hand side of the screen. You've got 2 volumes, one on the left side, one on the right side. You have to do an undercling move with a big high-up toe hook, do a long cross, and jump off to the next volume. That's a little bit of a bouldery section. After that, we follow up with a section on balls, or a little bit more slopey, pinchy holds. Quite basic. Up to the last little bit more bouldery section that goes from a good undercling to a quite flat, not so good crimp. And then what is our intention is to go palm down to the right side, get your feet almost above your head, get your body into the dihedral, go in a kind of horizontal position on the wall, reach up high with the left hand, and finish off with a basic sequence, but a jump, a little bit of off-balance jump last move. So I would say two bouldery sections. First one, very easy, just about balance. Second one, to be a little bit more decisive about taking the swing. Hopefully, I think it can be done also just taking out the toe hook and starting a little bit more the move, but that demands a bit more force. And the last one, probably a little bit harder to read and definitely needed more commitment to go with the palm. For the men, we start off with a very, very easy beginning, big holds, long moves, no foot holds, to a jump behind the red. That's the first bouldering move. You'll be seeing it in a moment on the right-hand side of your screen. You see volume with a chucked up hold. You jump to that thing, take a big swing. The jump is fairly easy. We do hope there's no falls on this. Afterwards, the section we call the campus section, because you do only one move with a foothold and then you go 3 moves with no foothold. You just pop the feet on the wall so you can like push off from them a little bit, but you do all the moves on hands. Basic sequence on underclings to a thing, the left quadra volume. That's where the sequence starts from basic underclings to a little bit more basic but pinchy, slopey moves. And that goes up, kind of not much to explain there. The moves are nice, the moves work quite well, but you get to the right side to the red. And we start the sequence where you see the big line of sticking out things from Laurent. That's the footholds. That's the footholds. You step on the big feet, you grab very small holds. It's a little bit of looking nice thing, but a thing that allows us to as well play with very shouldery move. And when with a very strange kind of hold, because you have a big crater and you get one hand on the side of it, and the second is where you kind of pinch the edge of it. And from that section you go straight into a section of pockets with almost no feet and a 360 turnaround only on hands in the roof. Hopefully it will work, you know, like 360 move, no feet. It's always hard to judge that stuff, if it's gonna work or not, but it seems quite logical, the holds are good. And then the ending is, again, a little bit more basic, some toe hooks and some cross moves, but we wanted all these sections before they get you pumped, and the last section is just that the holds are a little bit more pinchy. And the last move, I would not say it's it's not a big show move, but it is a move where endurance should play a part. That's it. Well, we do really hope that after the semi-final they will get there, huh?
Yeah, after the semi-final, conditions have improved. Have you made any changes to the routes from what you originally planned?
We've made some adjustments because our goal, as I've said, with the semis was to get a score, and our goal with the semis was not necessarily to get people to the top, but to get a score. It didn't happen with women, and to be very honest, we didn't get too much information from the women's semi-final. But from the men, we got quite a bit, and we did some adjustments so to try to keep the final as an idea where the best competitors fall really on the top or they top, which means we really try to have people going to the top without doing everything just too easy and boring to watch. We want the show from the beginning, so it's a risk we take. You know, the wall is big. You've probably said it already. It's 49 moves for the men. It's 44 moves for the women. There is places to fall.
Okay, Adam, thank you very much. Hopefully we can talk to you a bit later on.
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, well, you see me in the background. I'm on the bench there, so cool.
Okay, enjoy the show and thanks for all your work. I know how hard you guys work, so thank you, and I'm sure the show will live up to it.
Enjoy, guys. Well, yeah, I hope it'll be good, and we'll stay tuned in a moment. Huh? Thank you.
So the 6-minute observational period has finished, and an awesome moment there you may have seen with Jane Kim and Ashima working together. Just one climber, Jane Kim, over 20 gold medals throughout her career, and Ashima Shiriashi could possibly be following that in the years to come, and it was a really nice moment.
Yeah, it's a nice moment because when you observe the route, you have to find somebody who is the same height as you are, the same shape of body and style as you are. So 2 of them are both small and with Asian genes. So I think it was the most logical thing to see, but it's good to see how the generations change. And so we have Jain, literally one of the oldest in the competition, but she still climbs like she's 18 and looks like she's 18, and it's really beautiful to watch.
I'm interested actually, when you go out for observation, do you know people that you like to observe with?
Yes, I mean, if there is a Slovenian girl with me in the finals, I usually start observing with her because we speak the common language. But in bouldering, we usually exchange the thoughts in between, so we usually pair up Japanese on one side, me and Yanya usually on the other if we're together, or with Katja, and the others also pair up Austrians and Germans. And then afterwards we just mix up, hey, how do you want to do it? Hey, how do you want to do it? And we come up with different solutions. But I don't know, in the end, I feel like I prefer not thinking too much about beta, just go with the flow, because I kind of subconscious works better for me than conscious.
And Stasha, we were talking earlier, we were trying to observe the route just as the climbers who you've seen on screen do it, and we had some questions amongst ourselves that we ended up taking to the route setter. So we can ask the route setter, but they obviously can't. And into the top section, we were really debating whether you end up going really high up to the left, or there's a downwards jump method, and it's going to be really interesting to see later on what the method turned out to be. And the wall here is just so steep.
It's steep.
So it's really hard to read from
long,
the ground.
And you just get a wrong perception of how far some moves are or how close they are. I mean, I'm a bit out of lead climbing observations, so I just can't. My judgment is not so good as it used to be. So I thought there were two methods on the top, one upper and one lower, but it turned out to be a mix of those two.
There we see the crowd here in Arco. They're a knowledgeable bunch. It's a real climbers' town. This was interesting chatting to Angelo, who's been organising international climbing competitions here since 1987. And he was saying when he first arrived here, there was only a handful of climbers in the town, and they were just let loose on the rocks, and it's just exploded. And now it's quicker counting the shops that don't sell climbing shoes than the ones that do. It's a real climbers' town. As I say, the crowd, a very, very knowledgeable bunch.
So the finals here in Arco will take place on the left-hand side of the wall, the yellow wall. As you look at on the right-hand side, that's actually the dual competition as part of the Arco Rockmasters Festival weekend. We do believe that actually takes place later on tonight. If you've never seen the dual, it's actually quite a fun one. So next year in Arco, when the Rockmasters take place, do come down. It's head-to-head climbing, speed climbing, but
speed lead climbing.
Yeah, speed lead difficulty. And looking at some of the list here tonight, in the speed of the climbers is going to be an issue. And it's not a race effectively, but time is going to play a part. These walls here have been used for years with the 8 minutes maximum time limit, and this year the new time limit is 6 minutes. I think it's going to play a crucial part of tonight's competition.
It will, but we didn't have chance to see how the new rule will play out in IMST, because in IMST everybody runs out of time. So this year we didn't have this chance to see how it will play out on such high walls. But I hope nobody times out, and I hope it will be possible to just cruise through the wall.
If we look at the number of moves, Adam Pustelnik, the head route setter, was saying that the women's was 43 moves. Back in Briançon, it was 42 moves, and there wasn't too many issues with time there. So in terms of the number of moves available, obviously it should be okay. It doesn't factor in obviously the angles and the type of move. If there's this modern style, loads of volume wrestling, big slopers, anything like that that can really slow down the climbers compared to conventional in-cut crimping and just kind of romping up the wall.
If there are frequent boulder problems and good rests, climbers really take their time to rest and focus for the next section. It's also stressful when you see how hard the crux is, so you really need to take your time. But now I hope we won't have so many shakeouts and chalking up.
So just peering backstage, we are very close to the start of the competition. See the crowd there just building up nicely.
It's always so populated, it's so crowded. And it's a good thing that it's not limited with space like in Munich. So people were just all together without any personal space, like in a can. But here they can relax on the grass.
Stasha, I want to ask you, Shima Shiriashi, the first climber out, I do believe she's very close to coming out now. What is going through her head? Just 16 years old, obviously one of the greatest rock climbers of all time already. Can she take on the moment here? Can she psychologically deal with this situation? Her first ever Lead World Cup final.
I think she's quite under pressure, according to the face. It's not a big deal to be in the World Cup finals, and she probably didn't even know how it feels like since she never participated in one. But I hope it won't affect her climbing, because really the whole world is literally watching now this climbing because they want to see what's going to happen. They want the show. And we've all seen all those comparisons on the internet, Yanya versus Ashima, And this is the first direct battle between the two of them because they have competed on the same routes, although in different categories and the youth comps. But this one is quite historical.
If you're just tuning in, we are live in one of the truly legendary climbing venues of the world. We're in Arco in the Trentino region of Italy, just to the north of Lake Garda. Charlie Bosco and Mike Langley, very lucky this evening to be joined by Sasha Geo in the commentary box, and we're watching a piece of history here. Ashima Shirashi, the youngest person ever to climb 9A, and somebody that is, the whole climbing world is excited to see in a World Cup, is on the wall. Don't forget, as ever, you can get in touch, hashtag IFSC WC, let us know what you think.
So the head route setter was saying this early section, relatively basic, but quite a few long moves, get the climbers up through the initial section quite fast, and yeah, a really technical route here in Arco. Lots of use of the arete. We've seen it already throughout the semi-finals, a lot of heel hooks, a lot of toe hooks. Ashima Shirashi is on the right of that at the moment, and this is one of the first really interesting moves. He's searching for the foothold options.
Yeah, you can step anywhere in this wall because it has small cracks, and yeah, you can literally use any part of the wall, and also route setters know that. And these, we're coming to the part where quite long moves appear, which I'm scared for Jain and for Ashima, but I hope they'll find their way.
Ashima Shirashi then showing her class already here early on in the route, just the first third of the route done. Plenty of time, got a really good pace here for Ashima. She really seems to be dealing the pressure of the crowd extremely well.
Remember, this is a place she knows well, won the double world and lead boulder. Sorry, what am I saying? Lead and Boulder Youth World Championship, bit of a mouthful. She won the double here in Arco in 2015, as I mentioned earlier, repeated that in China in November last year. So it is a place she knows well, but this is a whole different stage, and interested to talk to her after the semi-final. Said how nervous she was. If she's feeling that way again this evening, she's covering it up well.
Yeah.
These positions then, when you find a really good rest, really good to get into, but extremely
Now
hard to
comes
leave.
the balancey part that Adam was talking about. Up, up.
Seems to have timed the exit well from the rest, but a really tricky move now. Makes through is a
She misses
lower
the
hold.
but it doesn't matter. It doesn't really make any change, I think.
Now she finds it, yeah, there's a hidden hold. We can't quite see it from that angle round to the left. There it is, just below Ashima's hand. This one she missed, she found it and then decided she didn't want it anyway.
Next one is quite weird.
Really aesthetic piece of route setting coming up from the route setter, series of triangular volumes. Looks
It's nice to
extraordinary.
see how route setters are trying to put an accent to the style of climbing, just to make it a climbing dance. And I love this type of route setting because it really is a show, but not you know, kitschy show or just the one that's just showing off jumping and dynamic moves. This one really, you need to have a balance. You need to think about what's ahead of you, and you somehow have to foresee what the route setter wants from you.
So Ashima's already burnt half of her time. You can see her a couple of moves down, keeping an eye on the clock, but so strong there. Just comes up short, but just resets, has another look. Ashima Shirashi seems to have found one of the first hard sections here, the women's final in Arco.
Yeah, we have two empty volumes, and the highest one has a crimp on it, but yeah, she missed this left hold.
Completely resets, heads out to the left. That hold is blocked. So it is a good hold, but not as good as you want. Struggles with the clip a little bit.
A bit more.
Gets it done eventually. She's back onto the top end of the volumes. This, as we mentioned, very aesthetic series of volumes. This is all new. Ashima Shirashi, she's the first climber out this evening. We see her working her way towards the steepest part of this wall.
Now comes another long move, and the next hold is also blocked, so we have an underlink below the pinch. So she has to go down to the left with the volume, which makes the move even longer. So I'm interested in how she will do this, even though there is a foothold on the left.
We've just lost our clock temporarily. Should be about a minute left for Ashima. Goes out with the left, just about sticks it. Feet swing out, she quickly gets them back on. The crowd enjoyed that one.
Now
Just trying to set herself. You can see fatigue kicking in. Coming back over to the right now. Just trying to figure out how to use that hold on the last blue triangular volume.
This will be a big swing. I don't think it's the right sequence, but wow, she holds it, so...
Route setters putting on an amazing show here in Ashima. Just one move too many. Tried to go out with the shoulder lock and couldn't quite manage it, but the crowd enjoyed that one.
The move that she did out left was absolutely brutal. It's incredible show of force there from Ashima.
Yeah,
she can really show her kind of go away with her head held high after that effort. That was an absolutely brilliant burn.
Yes, but I don't think the campusing up was a good idea, and it's interesting to see how she held the swing. But this part seemed harder than it looked from the ground, actually.
Ashima, as ever, seems to take everything in her stride.
Let's have another look at what happened here. This is the move saying she just lost the feet options had gone, and she went for the campus. It's a really, really good effort, but run out of gas quite early there, and shows the difficulty of the finals route here. But a great effort, and for Ashima to get through to the finals in her first World Cup was absolutely brilliant.
Now Molly comes out. I'm really interested to see if, I think she's not under pressure, because, you know, when you're in finals for first time, somehow you feel freedom.
Okay, I was really pleased to say we have Ashima in the commentary box.
Ashima, your first World Cup final. How was that in front of a huge crowd in Arco?
It was honestly like an amazing experience, and I'll never forget about it because it's my first one. And you know, I was so nervous. Right before I was on the wall, I was like so nervous going to the bathroom. But yeah, I'm really happy that I was able to compete in this final, and I really enjoyed myself.
And were you happy with your performance? It looked like you couldn't have done a huge amount better.
Yeah, I felt pretty good up there, and then I just kind of lost my focus a bit, and then I fell off, but I'm still pretty happy.
Yeah, it looked like an amazing performance, and that last move you went out with the right hand, was it maybe just too powerful? Do you think you misread it?
Honestly, I think that I should have gotten my foot on the chip, because then I wouldn't have to just campus to it. But yeah, I'm still pretty happy with it.
I can imagine. Fantastic first performance, and thank you for talking to us. Hopefully we'll see you very soon in the next World Cup.
Thank you.
So it's Molly Thompson-Smith, the next athlete out, as we heard from Ashima Shirayashi. Molly Thompson-Smith then gets into her first finals of first ever Lead World Cups, and the first finals for a British lead climber since 2004. So Molly Thompson-Smith put in an awesome show here in Arco. She's been training really, really hard throughout this summer, been training in Innsbruck, and I just had a quick chat with her coach, and she said, she's in good form, she's in good spirits, she's really looking forward to the finals. To me, she looks a little bit nervous, same as Ashima, but I mean, that's to be expected. This is the Lead World Cup final in Arco. Molly Thompson-Smith is looking composed. It was really interesting doing the observations, just kind of out on her own, didn't mix with any of the other athletes. Just here in the background, I just picked up the sound of her coach cheering her on. They've been travelling all summer together, and Molly's looking really good here, looking for some options for the right foot.
Yeah, she put up her feet. So now this balancing section, she has to go steady. She's been also competing in Boulder World Cups and a lot of European Cups. She was in finals twice, if I'm not wrong, last year. We competed together in Poland and in L'Argentière.
Oh, that was a really unfortunate. She seems to have had the wrong method there, and you can see the frustration in her face. She wasn't really using the left arete as much as she should have. Went off to kind of got herself committed to using the foothold, which is a dual texture, just a really bad foothold anyway, and just ended up going to firing up to the volume with the left hand, barn doored off. Unfortunate finals here for Molly Thompson-Smith. She'll be really kicking herself with that one.
Yeah, sad to see her fall in this part, but yeah, as I said, you have to go really steadily, and you need to be determined to do the move, because if you're not sure about what's going to happen, the chances are big that you slip or get out of balance.
That section does look really, really awkward though, and you got to really get mounted up on that volume, and then the wall, the steepness really starts to force you off, and the volume is off to the right. You've really got to start controlling it on the left-hand side.
Yeah, I've just got back from chatting with Ashima. As I said to her, it doesn't look like you could have done a huge amount better with that. It looked like a hard route, an amazing effort from Ashima, and we see from Molly Thompson-Smith, the route is nowhere near as easy as Ashima made it look, certainly in the lower section. So Ashima, I think, was just enjoying the occasion, but that high point could stand for a while.
Yeah, we'll see how Anne-Sophie does. I hope she figures out the first bouldery part.
So Anne-Sophie Koller joins Molly Thompson-Smith and 4 other climbers with 28 plus from the semi-final round. So quite a lot of ties going into this final. It's actually only a 3-way tie, considering countback from qualifications with Julia Shanadi, Jane Kim and Anak Verhoeven are completely tied going into this final. Ruth said it's got to sort that lot out, but it's a bit of an indicator. Anne-Sophie Koller was one of the climbers to end up with 28 plus.
You can see her now, how she does with her mouth. You can see how she breathes during this section, and she's really focused on having this steady, rhythmical breathing, which actually really helps because it prevents from having a lot of cramps in the forearms, and it just keeps the focus up.
Just quickly, actually, Mike mentioned about that tie that we have going into this evening's final. Normally we rely on count back to the previous round. Just remember, if one or more of those climbers are in the podium positions and they're still tied on this final route, it will come down to time if they're in the podium positions. We hope it won't come to that.
Yeah, I really have a lot of hope for this route. I think the early indicators from Ashima show that this route has got a lot of potential for high points. I think we're going to get a lot of people high up on the wall here. We really, really do hope so after a tough semi-final round.
Yeah, the upper part is quite interesting, and I can't wait to see somebody on the top section. And Adam was talking about putting the palm on the right of the volume and just being in a horizontal position. I really hope some of the top girls will just show us how it's actually done.
Yeah, we're right underneath the wall here in Arco, and you've got to crane your neck to see the top of it. It is so steep. It's absolutely unrelenting, this women's route. It's overhanging from the second they leave the ground, and that only increases the higher you get. It's Anne-Sophie Koller. She's about coming up for a third of her time. She's done more than a third of the moves, but the moves ahead, I suspect, are a lot tougher than the ones below. So she goes out to the left arete. She finds the hold that Ashima initially missed. We saw Molly Thompson-Smith just working her hand up the left arete here.
Yeah, we saw Ashima going from the right to the left. Ashima stood up on the volume with having her hand where Anne-Sophie has her right one. But we saw Molly and Anne-Sophie going to the left side, which they found easier, but the moves are longer. And we see she cruised through this part really steadily.
That was really interesting. That's the point where Molly Thompson-Smith starts to struggle. Anne-Sophie Koller finds the method much easier, finds the correct body position, and finds herself in a really nice rest here. It's very similar to what Ashima did. Ashima actually rested slightly lower down, but Anne-Sophie Koller really considering the time and starting to quest off into the next section of volumes.
Yeah, nice intelligent climbing from her. Had a quick look down at the clock. Don't think she'll have been too dismayed, more than her for half her time remaining.
You can see how she can actually reach this crimp a lot easier than Ashima did, but also she chose to go left first because probably the crimp up there is not so good as we might think it is.
Gets the clip done. She's heading up. She's not a million miles away now from Ashima's high point. These last few moves on the volumes, just slightly more technical than they might initially appear. Goes up with the right hand, just about sticks it. Tough move for the shoulders. She'll clip from here.
I think this is where the route goes from endurance into power endurance. The wall kick, the angle kicks back, the moves get much bigger, the volumes get larger. It's really time to start opening up some bigger moves now. This is, we saw Ashima a couple of moves ahead.
Now it's the power endurance thing, and it's really good to work and train on the systems where you have holds a lot far away and you just try to improve your power on the furthest moves you can do. That's how I sometimes train, even though I have one of the largest APA indexes among the boulderers. But it's really useful because then you can also hold the closer moves better.
Here we go, it's Anne-Sophie Koller from Switzerland looking for the section where Ashima started to struggle. Could we see a new high point here?
Let's see how she'll do this one. Will she swing or campus or just jump? It's quite a risky move, and they're all rethinking about their initial betas. Yeah, God, so strong.
Amazing effort there. She sticks it with one hand, takes a one-hander swing. The crowd really like that one.
And I can see the route setters being happy for shit like that.
So Anne-Sophie Koller heading up towards the final section of this route. Above her, the wall stays this steep, and then it's a slightly less steep traverse to the right.
Yeah, now
she's got to get there first.
Those double textured slopers that can really make troubles to climbers, especially when you're pumped. Let's see how she'll fight through this one.
The top above and right of that blue volume that you can see right in the middle at the top of your screen. The top holds are above that. I think time is going to be an issue here though. 45 seconds on the clock. She's going to have to climb very fast if she's not going to get timed out. She's still fighting though. She's giving this one absolutely everything.
Now she
Anne-Sophie
comes.
Koller.
Oh.
And she just slips off from those underclings, but a fantastic effort from
Such a
Anne-Sophie.
good performance. I'm really happy to see her fight through all these. But now we can question the time issue for the other climbers. If they'll take more rests, how will they manage? They have to really speed up at this middle section.
Yeah, I mean, her pace seemed pretty good for considering this is a route climbing competition from the ground, and she seemed to have a pretty steady pace. I wouldn't say she was going particularly slowly or took any particularly large rest. So, yeah, it's going to be really interesting, like Stasha said, to see what happens later on. It's Anne-Sophie Koller leading the way then quite nicely with a score of 38. Ashima Shiriashi behind her with 32 plus, I think that was, and Molly Thompson-Smith slightly further down in third position. Jessica Pills will be out next, came 5th. Pretty much every competition this year she's been in, so she'd be really looking to improve on that. Seems to have something about 5th place like she quite likes. I'm sure she would much prefer a podium.
Yeah, I hope she breaks the ice of the 5th place and shows her best, because she's really a talented climber. She can just figure out another beta or a sequence during the wall, during climbing, and she has an interesting style, and I hope she gets out of her 5th place and goes to the podium.
When you say an interesting style, what exactly are you referring to there, Sasha?
She's one of the quicker climbers. She's determined. She just doesn't lose focus often. I mean, there were some of the competitions, but still, she is quick, knows what she has to do. She is dynamic. You know, you have climbers that climb more statically, and the ones that might be taking risk, but they do more dynamic moves.
So fresh off the wall, still breathing hard. Let's hear from Anne-Sophie Koller.
Anne-Sophie, I can see you're still out of breath. That route, it looked like it took everything you had.
Yeah, I was pumped, and the hard moves were really hard, so I was just finished, and I think the time was almost finished, so I think I did my best, and I'm pretty happy. Did
you have a look at the time when you had about a minute left and realised that you just had to go fast?
No, I just watched when I was about in the middle. I watched down and saw 3 minutes, a bit more. Then I thought, yeah, it's enough. I mean, I don't think I will top, so I just take my time and don't rush, not to make any mistakes.
And that was a great fight. The crowd really enjoyed it. You must have been able to hear them.
Yeah, I heard them, and it pushed me from every move, and I want to thank them. It's really good atmosphere, and I love climbing here.
Okay, thank you very much. And you heard that here. If you come to a World Cup, cheer loud. The athletes can hear you, and it drives them on.
Definitely, it helps a lot.
So it is that lady, Anne-Sophie Koller, leading the way with a score of 38. Ashima's just behind her with 32 plus. And with Anne-Sophie's performance, it really gives us an indicator of how difficult this route is. She was into the top third.
She decides to go left again, like the previous two climbers. Only Ashima went right so far. Let's see how she does with the slab. I mean, I said slab part because it looks
the overhanging slab.
The overhanging slab, yes.
Goes for the same method, then rolls over the right hand and looks composed with it too. Will she take much of a rest? We saw Anne-Sophie Koller from Switzerland starting to burn the time quite rapidly. She said it there in her interview, the time started to become an issue, and Jessie Pills moved straight on with the midsection of the route.
Interesting insight there from Anne-Sophie, saying she heard the crowd and it got a couple of extra moves out of it. It's great to hear.
Yeah, it's always a good push from the crowd. That's what I always experience in Munich, for example. It's just wild. You just got like thousands of hands pushing you up.
Imagine how Jan Hoyer felt.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Jessie Pills just struggling a little bit here. Then she went up the right hand, had a feel, but she was really stretched, was locked off so hard with left hand. She has to repeat the move once again, exactly the same method. Just look how she's tucked in so hard there. You can see the strain going through the body. Jessie Pills has another look at this. She's in real trouble here. Reverses for the second time.
she figured out that it was a wrong decision to go right. It's a bad thing that she went there again, so she lost a lot of energy to go the correct sequence. It took her a lot of energy, so I hope she gets refreshed in the undercling now.
Worth keeping an eye on the time as well, only 2:30 left. She's been slower up to the point. Still fighting though. She's beginning to look tired. 2:20 left on the clock.
This would be
onto the steepest section.
This would be a real show of her determination and fitness after a real struggle in the previous move there, using the wrong method twice. Managed to rethink on the third time, but yeah, like Sasha said, she needs to have some incredibly good recovery here. Trying to get rid of the pump, shakes it off. 2 minutes left. She's got a lot of climbing still to do. Dizzy Pilsen lines up the big move out the left. A quick check to the right. Oh, just fingertips on the volume on the right hand direct.
She sticks it well, but she kind of looks confused. I hope she just now figures the next move. But let's see what's going on.
Dizzy Pills looking a fair bit of trouble here. Left foot straining on the wall. Oh, got the right method in the end, but realistically the lower section really took it out of her. And complex as well as hard move here.
Yeah, this changing the decisions just took everything away from her.
Jessie Pilz, she doesn't look over the moon with that performance. Actually a very good effort on a complicated and physical route. Let's have a look at those last few moves. Goes up through the left hand. And that's a powerful move to hold unless you get it absolutely right. Looked like she was perhaps even slightly above the key hold.
And what's really interesting about that move, we saw it a little bit with Ashima, but it's the release of the left foot that's really key. And up there, once you're rolling over with the left hand, a huge amount of weight is on the left foot.
Yes.
As soon as that releases, there's a huge cut loose.
First of all, you have to pull a lot from that from the volume with your toes so that you can actually stay on the wall while going to the cross. And then letting it go is even harder. As we saw Anne-Sophie, she used the inertia to go right, and luckily she was strong enough to stand on one hand, but yeah, you should stick the swing with both hands.
I think it's to use that inertia, like you say, I think it's a matter of confidence and experience.
Yes.
You know there's not much point in slowing it down. You know where the next hold is, and we saw with Ashima, she just stalled out a little bit on that move, ended up having to campus it and missing the next hold. But Anne-Sophie Koller used it well, and when she did it as well, it looked super cool.
Yes, it did. Now we see Julia Chanardi starting the route.
So Julia Chanardi on the wall, 6 minutes to go. Remember, if there is a tie between her, Anna Verhoeven or Jane Kim, and they are in a podium position, it will come down to time. Not the way we want to see league climbing competitions settled, but they have to be separated somehow.
Yeah, people always complain in climbers about having to speed through the lead wall, but when you have no other way to separate the tide, that's it. You just have to deal with it.
Julia Chanardi then topped both of her qualifying routes, 28 plus in the semi-finals. So that is tying her with many of the other athletes through the semi-finals. This could be interesting now. If she gets through this section, starts heading up into the headwall, I'm going to keep one eye on the route setters because they know that there is ties going into this final. We can start to try and read their expression to see if they get nervous or not.
They'll be pleased, I think, with their work so far. 38 for Anne-Sophie Koller, 32 plus for Ashima Shirashi, Jessie Pilz 31 plus, 20 plus for Molly Thompson-Smith. So no ties in the final just yet. Julia Chanardi, she's been knocking on the door of a World Cup win for a while now. Is today the day? She won't face much stronger competition. She'll believe she can do it.
Stasha, I want to ask you, you can see the female athletes here taking on a lot of chalk. It's still around 30 degrees here in the evening, and how has that affected, you think, the athletes you were competing in the bouldering earlier today? How's that affected the athletes throughout the weekend?
Well, high temperatures and alongside with humidity make a horrible pair for climbing, and especially on these holds and volumes, because you just start sweating, then no chalk stays in your hands, and especially in bouldering, you just lose the control and you keep slipping. But in lead climbing also, it's a downside because you have to like pinch more, hold stronger, and you lose a lot of energy on that one.
Well, I think we've seen a lot of the athletes, some of the athletes dealing with it better than others as well, and it really seems to be a personal preference, whether you can deal with it or not. But just focusing back on Yoshiyuki then, this is a good bird from her. She's really through the section, but she's going up exactly what Jessie Peels did, head up to the right hand. We saw Schreiber trying this method as well, but looks like she's going to stick with it.
It's so much harder to go up, and probably they look the sequence together the same way, so everybody goes there first, and now it's a matter of time when will they decide to go left actually. Didn't
seem to burn too much energy. Yeah, she really had to grit her teeth through the match with that lower hold on the right hand volume. Gets it done now though, and again that's going to have to taken a bit of energy. Head flies back as she hits the next move. Really powerful section here, and hopefully she can take just a moment to take a breather.
I hope she holds the swing well on the next part, and yeah, I really want to see a real fight up there.
She's taking the opportunity of a brief rest. As we mentioned earlier, it's unrelentingly steep, this Arco wall. There's nothing resembling what I think most recreational climbers would call a rest, but there's something resembling a recovery point in Yoshiyuki, just taking the opportunity while it's there. She's got 2 minutes 20 left on the clock. As I mentioned, time could be critical for her. I doubt she'll be thinking about that though. It's move by move, sequence by sequence. Looking nice and in control so far, but these moves are powerful. As Mike said,
so
power endurance
she goes
becoming
for a
key.
heel hook and then changes to toe hook, and she has to pull strong. And now the swing, let's see, can she do it? Hope so.
You can tell she doesn't quite want to cut loose. She'll need to commit in just a second. She does! And just cuts off as the right hand landed.
You really can see the hesitation in the climber's eyes before they go for that move. Yeah. They really don't want to release the left foot. They don't want to take the swing. They don't want to commit to what is a low percentage move.
They're just, you see their body twitch, like they're going for the move and then they stop. They're just like somehow testing the vision they'll feel in the move.
In the replay there, you could see the momentum she was carrying off the right there. She was flying at that point. Would have been an incredible show of finger strength to actually stop the momentum there and
not
kill the
actually
move.
finger strength, there's more of a shoulder strength because you have two holds like pointing to each other, and there's a lot of different forces acting here, so you have to pull with another and push with the other one, so just somehow to stay inside. It's a complex, quite bouldering move.
Yoshiyuki, according to our clock, of course there will be an official time, but fell at around 1 minute 45 left if time is critical. See there, tied on score with Ashima Shireshi, but moves ahead on count back to the previous round. So Anne-Sophie Koller sitting pretty with 3 climbers to go. If one of these climbers can't match her high point, she's guaranteed a podium. The 3 climbers, of course, are very familiar names at the business end of World Cups: Jane Kim, Annette Verhoeven and Janja Garnbret. Here is the first of them, Jane Kim.
Jane looks perfectly focused.
We know what to expect from Jane. Nice and control, steady climbing. She's going to be forced to be dynamic at certain times on this route though. That's happened a few times this season and through last season, and she's not known as someone that likes dynamic moves especially, but she's coped extremely well with it. It seems to be something she's really been working on. Very increasingly all-round climber.
Yeah, you can see how when climbers start doing something that's not quite their style, you can see the whole progress in their condition. So that's also what happened with Anak. She wasn't really training so much like pure power, but when she started to do so, we see a huge jump in her results. And the same thing with Jane. She did a couple of World Cups in bouldering. So
and won one.
Yes, exactly. And we can see that. You know, you just get this dynamics in your style, the power, this determination to hold it, to risk.
So a minute already gone for Jane Kim. We haven't seen time be an issue, but it's close for Anne-Sophie Koller. Jane Kim is going to top this route. The speed she's got now is going to need to be the minimum. She probably needs to go slightly faster, but she's a massively experienced competitor. She'll be measuring her energy carefully.
That's what lead is mostly about. Just trying to somehow calculate the amount you'll spend on each part and just leave something for the rest.
Well, I think it's a constant calculation as well, all the way through the route. It's not just a simple calculation from the beginning. Just as Jane Kim works her way through this next one, we have Julia Chanody.
Julia, congratulations. Fantastic effort on the route. Just explain what happened on that last move.
I think it's the hardest move of the route. I don't understand what can I do. I think I was so pumped to take the hold, and I'm happy to be first now because I think that other girls climb higher. So I hope.
We'll wait and see, but a very good weekend for you overall.
Yeah, I'm very happy because I was at the top in Calif. And in the semis, in the top 4. So yes, I'm very happy because now it's my place, I think.
It certainly is. Congratulations. Enjoy the rest of the final.
Thank you.
So Jane Kim then on the wall and climbing pretty slowly so far. I mean, she's faster than she has done previously, but the time is really going to be an issue here. She's probably less than halfway or just around halfway on the wall as it stands at the moment. She really has a look of pure determination this weekend. Previous World Cups this season, she just looks like she was very happy to make podiums, to see that she was on form in 2017, but today she really looks like she's out to win.
Let's see if I'm interested if she'll go with the right hand up on the crimp like everybody else did. Then we can see how they exchange the beta with each other.
So this is the hold that Julia Chanody ended up gritting her teeth on to match. She looks like she's having a quick reefing, but no, crosses back with the left hand. A really tricky sequence to read here. Goes for the match now, really wiggles it in. It's a heinous looking match.
I used to have issues with matching small holds. I mean, I can excuse myself for having big fingers, but I always avoided those and hated those. But yeah, at some point you just have to do it.
When we were training, we used to say matching makes you weak, but in this case, yes. I think Jane Kim saying matching definitely makes you strong, and she's done really well through that section.
She looks fresh. She'll just cruise through the next part, I hope.
As I mentioned earlier, we hope time doesn't become a factor, but if it is, she's definitely behind Julia Chanody at this stage. So Jane Kim just behind on time. Hopefully it won't be a factor and she can top the route.
This is where she needs to start releasing some power. It's all about this next section to see whether she gets into the head wall or not. It takes time to compose herself, chalks up once again, and local MC just builds her up.
She just wants to go make a shortcut, but she's now hesitating. But I could see with her, by her look to the right, that she just wants to skip the left volume.
You do wonder if that's a route reading issue or something she's pre-decided to do, whether that's something she thought about during the observational period.
She might have thought about that, but now that she was up there, she might have thought of a possibility, but then
doesn't have her left toe onto the screw-ons at the moment. It's going to be a huge cut-loose move if she has to. Can Jane Kim find one of her famous bits of beta to get out of this without a huge cut-loose?
She's trying to hold the swing before she goes.
Oh, there she goes. A brilliant effort. That was an incredible show of body tension for Jane Kim. Great thinking as well. Currently with her left foot above her left hand. Oh, sticks it really well.
It was amazing because she was positioned really better than Ashima did. Ashima tried to canvas, but she used her legs and her body position to just stick the move without swinging too much, because swings are always risky and you just want to avoid them as much as possible.
Jane Kim then with only 20 seconds left on the clock. That clock is unofficial, but she's going to run out of time here. Chances are Jane Kim will be timed out without falling off. We don't really like to see this, but she's been very, very slow up to this point.
Now she has to.
She's sprinting now.
Speed up.
She can hear the local MC. Just a few seconds left.
Oh.
Local MC calls the time. People applaud her, but she's cracking on anyway.
She should just continue climbing. Will she jump? Yeah. No. Yeah. This is what Adam. Oh.
Just trying to take one earphone off to see what happened there, and it gave interesting insight to what the route setters wanted, but unfortunately once again Jane Kim times out in the route, and a huge round of applause for her because that was a really, really good fight nonetheless. Let's have a look
Yeah,
through
route
this
setters
section
are
now.
sad that she just timed out before the best move of the route.
That was a good look back at that sequence there. She really found a really intelligent baiter and showed
Yes.
her years of experience. Just on the floor there, she taps her wrist saying time. Unfortunate once again for Jane Kim. This wall in Arco, this is the first time we've seen 6 minutes. It's usually 8. 2017 rules.
Yeah, I thought this wouldn't be an issue here, but we can see that quite some of them timed out. I just wonder what's going to happen in main this category.
As we mentioned, massively experienced, very intelligent competitor, Jane Kim. And I thought she was measuring her pace, but perhaps not measuring it quite right, unfortunately. I felt a couple of minutes in, she was slightly behind time, and so it proved. Timed out Jane Kim.
We could have seen some really good climbing forward on. But yeah, rules are the rules.
So you can have a look there. That's one of our highest camera points on the wall. You can see how long the wall is here, how steep it is. A legendary arena it is as well. Let's have a look then. It's Jane Kim who leads the way, 39. One more move than Anne-Sophie Koller. Yoshiyuki currently sitting in 3rd place, with Ashima, who came out first, currently sitting in 4th. Molly Thompson-Smith, unfortunately, down in 6th place for her. She was kicking herself, but it's Anak Verhoeven now. Comes out in the penultimate position, 2nd last. And Anak Verhoeven, Jen Stasha, she's so intelligent with her climbing. She is one of the climbers who you thought wouldn't have an issue with time, because she calculates every single element of her climbing so carefully.
Yes, she's really known for watching her watch during the climbing. And that's a good, I mean, some people say it's weird that you check out your watch all the time, but you have to calculate it. You have to measure your energy you need for the upcoming sections, and she does it well. She now became really experienced in this measurement stuff, and I hope she won time out, really, and everybody hopes that.
So I've just seen an example of how necessary it is. Jane Kim timed out a climber before her. Anna may or may not be aware of that in isolation. She might well have been keeping an eye on exactly how long Jane was on the wall and figured it out for herself, but she'll know that time could well be an issue here on this long Arco wall.
I'm just trying to read the body language here of Anak Verhoeven, and I'm sure she would have understood exactly what just happened there with Jane Kim, so she knows that time's going to be an issue. And I think you can see that in her climbing style just through the first few moves. Really determined, really fast-paced, pumping between the different holds.
Her face looks really determined. Now she's not hesitating at all in this first part of the wall. Let's see how it moves on.
So with Jane Kim just off the wall, currently sitting in 1st position. Let's hear from her.
Jane, fantastic effort on the route, but you just ran out of time. Did you know that you were short on time? Did you see the clock?
Yeah, I saw my clock. The time was so fast, so fast. So it is a shame that I couldn't get the top, but I think I able to all the best for me. And actually I was so confused after the observation because route was so difficult, but during the climbing the beginning part was better than I thought, and I just led Mari up to the world.
Well, it was fantastic effort to watch, and congratulations. Enjoy the rest of the final.
Thank you so much.
So Anak Verhoeven then through this section, and really interesting to hear there from Jane Kim during the observation just how confusing she found the route read, and I think that's what's factored into this route, how slow this section is. Not only is it hard, but it's hard to read. It seems to have stalled the climbers out, but Anak Verhoeven not making any mistakes to date. That's where we lost Molly Thompson-Smith, but you can see the concentration it took for Anak Verhoeven to get through there without wobbling off. Clearly a hard move.
She has 3 minutes and 20 seconds, so she has to start speeding up now and not go right on this part ahead of her.
it's really difficult for the competitors to work out what's the best tactics. Do I risk getting more and more pumped and fall off early, or do I try and risk the time? It's a fine balance to try and work out what to do, how to pace the route. She crosses over with the left hand. As one of the taller climbers, will she be heading up out to the right, or will she reverse it, get the match? Oh, does it
so
nicely.
Good. She didn't match. She just went with her lower and on the lower volume with the perfect heel hook. It was so steady and such a good decision.
Anik Verhoeven, and perfect route reading once again, and that's a real theme of hers. She just seems to really know exactly what she's doing on every route, and the memory for route reading must be extraordinary.
Yeah, you just remember the route better if you imagine yourself while you climb, because then you get somehow a motoric memory. It's not just the pure memory of this hold is there and that hold is there. You just know it by the moves you have to do.
Anik Verhoeven grits her teeth, has a good look around, has a look at her options, and now is the time for her to start speeding up. You can see her biting her lips as she's clearly very hard through this section. Anik Verhoeven's got a real fight on her hand, and she wanted some hard routes this year, and she's definitely got one here.
She set herself up. Just remember, as I mentioned, if there's a tie for a podium position, including Julia Chanaudu, Jane Kim, or Anik Verhoeven, it will come down to time. And this is not the official time. This is only what I'm watching on the screen. But I think Anik is a few seconds behind Julia Chanaudu, who's currently in third place. So she'll need to improve on Julia's score outright, not just on time. 1 minute 30 left on the clock. Last year's Arco winner, Anik Verhoeven, just trying to figure out this move to the right.
Oh God.
She's lining it up. She goes to the left hand and she's off. Anik Verhoeven will not repeat her win in Arco 2016. She falls, going through with the left hand. We've seen that move stopping a number of climbers.
By Anik Verhoeven's standard, that was an absolute disaster, a real shame. She really didn't seem to find the right method there. She didn't seem to get the left toe hook in the right spot. It was low down on the volume. It just looked like she didn't quite know what to do. And we heard it from Jane Kim in the interview, a really tough route to read, and it really seems to be taking out some of the athletes.
Yes, her toe was really low, and when you're so low, you just get too stretched, and then...
Just have another look. It's a left foot that's really low on the volume. She got super stretched. She found the method eventually.
She was probably more comfortable in the starting position of the move with the lower toe, but then she just should have moved it a bit higher.
So already we're on to the final climber in the women's. It's Janja Garnbret, and we've yet to see climbers really high on the route and challenging the top few moves.
That's enough to put Anik Verhoeven in fifth, by the way. She's tied on score this evening with Jessica Pilz, but count back to the previous round. Puts her just ahead of Jessie. So Jessie in sixth. She breaks her run of fifth places, but unfortunately it's moving down the order, not up it. But another final with Jessie Peltz, and you can see there Anik Verhoeven nestled in fifth. So Jane Kim currently leading the way, and Sophie Collin now guaranteed a podium position. That woman there, Janja Garnbret, comes out last, climbs last. Pressure is on. She doesn't seem to feel it. She's a woman you know well, Stasha.
Yes, she fights with pressure really good. She just has an unbeatable psyche. Really, it's amazing to see how she functions, how her body functions, how she recovers from round to round. You can see that she never gets tired. And then, I mean, mistakes on the minimum, but that's just her, I guess.
Yeah, she's fantastic. So relaxed about the whole thing. I saw her in Arco about 3 hours ago, just another person queuing up for an espresso and relaxing in town. You wouldn't have thought there was a fourth World Cup win in a row on the line 2 hours later. Relaxed as could be with her Slovenian teammates. Seems to always be the way.
That's her recipe. Just be relaxed and enjoy it, like she says.
I think the pressure's on here. Sorry, Charles, I was going to say the pressure's really on here from Janja. She's going to have known that there's not been that much cheering from the crowd. She's going to have known that this route has been fallen off quite early on, so she's going to know, she can decipher from that. It's super hard, and to see Anik Verhoeven's just walked past us, not looking too pleased with her performance, unfortunately. Well, maybe we'll try and catch a word with her. We shall see. It's Janja Garnbret fighting now for a potential win. She's got Jane Kim to beat, who takes at least a silver medal here in Arco.
Can we see another streak of World Cup wins from Janja?
Janja, no mistakes up to this point. We would expect nothing left. Only a minute 30 used up at this pace. Time unlikely to be an issue. I've already seen Jane Kim timed out, and Sophie Koller had about 40 seconds left when she finished her attempt. But Janja setting a good pace.
Yeah, in trainings you also have to deal with climbing a bit faster, so you just have to be trained to do it. And I think Janja is doing that really well, because she now knows how to separate her time. Even though in Campitello and European Championships she hesitated a bit and chalked up really a lot, so she lost a lot of time. But yeah, we learn from our mistakes, so she does too.
She doesn't make many mistakes twice.
No, that's true.
Well, one of the problems with leading is, though, if you make a mistake once, that's the end of your round.
Yeah, that's why I like bouldering. You can correct your mistake, apparently.
Well, of course, Janja, no slouch in the bouldering. 3 lead World Cup wins and 3 Boulder World Cup wins already in 2017. She does continue to rewrite the history books. And as yet, she is cruising on this women's final route here in Arco. Just over half her time left. Should be enough time to top the route. The pace has slowed slightly over the past minute or so.
Did have a couple of looks at the right-hand method there, decided it wasn't the one, and that's probably a good thing. She ends up going with the right sequence, or the sequence that we've seen work to this stage. Janja Garnbret then into the second half of the route. Really good timing so far, climbing with great pace. She won Villars, she won Chamonix, she won Briançon. Can she win again here in Arco?
Remember, of course, this was the first place she was beaten in the 2016 Lead World Cups.
Oh, yeah.
Anak took the win. Anak won't win today. Janja still has the chance to. She's got
the revenge.
2 minutes 30. The crowd getting pumped up. Venue MC giving it everything.
She also loves the crowd. I mean, who doesn't? But when you get so much support, it's just another plus. Let's see now, this seems so easy for her. Will she do the toe hook just on the right spot? She knows that she can't lose this one. I don't think heel hook is a better.
Yeah, it's really interesting. She bumped the hand out of the way straight away, dropped the heel, and it works really well for this move, but it will mean a big cut loose on the next move unless she can find the method that Jane Kim employed.
Yeah, she has to stop the swing before going on, but I think she's also strong enough to do what Anne-Sophie did.
Oh
God.
Janja Garnbret falls. That is not often we say that. The head is in the hands. Janja Garnbret will not win here today. It's Anne-Sophie Koller in second place, and Jane Kim takes the win. An extremely good result, and Janja Garnbret is absolutely devastated, and silence around the arena. They cannot believe what they've just seen.
She didn't expect this one. She was absolutely sure she will hold a swing, but I think holds just surprised her, or the swing was too high. She should have just held a swing like Jane.
I do wonder, she had the left heel tucked in there. We saw other athletes have success off the toe hook. I wonder if the release was just too much for her to control. That's a real shame there. I cannot believe it. The route setters behind us are just heads in the hands. Let's have another look what happened then. You can see the left heel, the calf just straining under the weight. She takes a look at the release, goes for it. Seems to get a bit of a tangle in the rope or something. I'm not 100% sure what happened there, but
yeah, but she slipped
shock.
from the left crimp. She just lost her control and couldn't hold this big swing on the right hand.
And there we have it. Jane Kim back on the top step of the podium, and Sophie Koller second place. She will be absolutely over the moon with that. And Janja Garnbret still makes it onto the podium, but it's not the step she's used to standing on. Julia Chanaudy is bumped down on 32 plus. Ditto Ashima Shirashi due to count back to the previous round. Anak Verhoeven in sixth place, last year's winner in Arco. Jessie Pilton seventh, and Molly Thompson-Smith, the first female lead British climber in a World Cup final since Lucy Creamer, I believe, in 2004.
Yeah, it was a good final in many ways. Slightly disappointing we didn't see someone higher up on the wall, and yeah, Jane Kim, she ended up getting timed out, but she was looking like she was in fine form there. This is Jane Kim. Let's have a look at her method through it. She really did well to not have to do that release. She really used her years of experience. She managed to get herself off with the arete. No cutting loose for Jane Kim, and in the end, maybe that was what made the difference. She didn't have to take the huge swing, didn't have to fight low percentages.
Yeah, fantastic from Jane Kim. We saw Janja fall off that move. It was Julia Chanaudy and Ashima Shirashi, and Jane Kim just found a way to do it without needing to cut too loose, without taking too many risks, and she is rewarded with a gold medal And with barely a pause for breath, we're underway with this men's final. It's Yoshiyuki Ogata out first.
So this is our first look at the men's route then. Slightly more moves than the women, which could be worrying for time. It's 49 moves. Really interesting early start with a bit of a jump around the corner. The route setter Adam Pustanik says he really hopes no one will fall off on the early jump. We're straight on with the competition here. The route setters still slightly recovering behind us, and the nails have just been chewed down to the finger bones, unfortunately. The competition continues, and it's straight into the men's final here in Arco.
Now we have Yoshiyuki Ogata, the young prodigy of Japan who won the World Games. He's so dynamic. He's just like, okay, many other Japanese boulderers, but he has these twitches. He can jump from straight legs, just incredible. He's impressive, and now seeing him in lead is even more impressive because this guy is 1 year younger than me, 1998, and he's done a lot in his career this year.
So first first look at this move then. Slight hesitation from Yoshiyuki. He's got to match up the erect and fly around the corner. Really nervy move, not really what you want at the start of a lead World Cup final. It's an opportunity to make a mistake, and it's about 100% commitment, but the Japanese are very, very good, as Stasha was saying, at these jumps. But Yoshiyuki just stalling out a little bit, not too happy with this move. Looks like he's going to go all the way off the left.
But it is easy.
Easy in the end.
Easy. Yeah, in lead climbing you hesitate more than you usually do because you know that you must not make that mistake. You have to do it. So we're looking for perfect body position, perfect energy spending.
Yoshiyuki Ogata, fresh from a World Cup final last week in Munich in bouldering, and this time he's in the lead. Going to have to pick up the pace. It's almost 2 minutes gone. He's only just reached the first of the small overhangs on this men's route. You can see to the left the women's route, the now familiar women's route. He will need to pick the pace up if he's going to venture onto the top section of this men's route here in Arco. So we had time for pause for breath, and here we are with the men.
Goes from volumes into crimps through this next section, and then back into the volumes. Small section just to work the fingers. This is heading up into this squadra volume now. Route has really employed a lot of screw-ons into the volumes to improve the size of what there is to hold on to in that in those volumes. It's not just all about the friction, and the friction is really, really not very good today. So it's good that they've done that. And actually, you can just see the left heel straining a little bit.
Yeah, these volumes are not so good in friction as the other holds, and especially if there's no choke on and if it's humid and hot, it can be a bit of a trouble. We can see that Yoshiyuki is just so full of energy, as most Japanese are in bouldering competition. They can change their beta during their one attempt, so without losing so much energy, so they can just go up and down, left, right. It doesn't really matter for them, as we saw just now.
I think with one theme with these large volumes as well, the sequence is sometimes quite difficult to read. There's quite a lot of options with them, a lot of hand movements all on the same hole, and you can see Yoshiyuki just stalled out a little bit there through this section of volumes, wasn't 100% sure what to do, but like Stasha said, finds a nice method on the fly and finds a good rest.
Yeah, because you usually don't know what the right beta is until you go up there, and you just have to feel it. You need a lot of experience, just like Kim said before. You just can't read it perfectly from the ground, but then when you go up, opportunities open up for you.
If you're just tuning in, by the way, and wondering where that women's final went, if you just nipped to the kitchen to get a beer, we're already underway with the men's competition. Just to confirm, Janja Garnbret break the streak of wins. It was Jane Kim who won, followed by Anne-Sophie Koller and Janja Garnbret third place. And this is Yoshiyuki Ogata on the wall. Charlie Bosco and Mike Langley here as ever, joined by Stasha Geo this evening here in Arco, just as I was last year.
Yes.
Little reunion in the commentary box. And
good to be back.
This men's final already underway. You can see how steep this section of the wall is. We have to change the camera angle just to see it.
He's fighting now, holding some weird crimp on the right. And now, as our route setter said before, you have all these big volumes just for feet, but he doesn't come to that part.
I think that's a really good burn from Yoshiyuki. Gave us a good idea of how hard the route was. He was really kind of puffing through that top section. Definitely would not give up until it was completely gone. And it was a really, really interesting start. Route setters look slightly relieved behind us. They've seen someone get high up on the route. after a tricky women's final.
I can see Anne-Sophie Koller in the audience just being guided by somebody, and she has a smile all over her face. She's really, really happy with her.
Yoshiyuki just having a final rueful look up at the men's route, waves to the crowd and heads back in. He's still trying to figure out if there's something he missed there.
I really like to see that from the athletes. It really shows their true passion for the actual routes themselves. For some reason, sometimes it's not just about competing, it's about climbing the route.
Exactly, that's what happened to me in Munich now when I fell off the top of the women's 2 in finals. I was just heartbroken. I was sad because not because I missed the top. Even if I climbed it, I wouldn't be on the podium anyhow. But just this passion you have for success of your own, for just defeating the boulder, and it was all gone in just a part of a second.
Well, at the end of the day, climbing is quite unique in that the only way you're going to win is by competing against the route or the boulder, unlike in other sports. I mean, obviously there is direct competition in that there's a set of results and everybody goes head to head, but the actual competition is against the climb, not against them.
Exactly, that's a good thing, because in other sports where they're face-to-face competitors, one with each other, it sometimes might also affect personal relationship with that person, not to talk about team sports and hockey fights and so on.
So Kochira Korenaga's on the wall. Decent season for him so far in 2017. 2 10th places and a 2nd place. So already been on the podium this year. Either been on the podium or not in the final. Can he keep up that run?
He won the World Games.
Yes, he did.
In lead, and let's see how he does. I remember last year he was also in finals in Arco, as I remember.
Sorry?
Was he in finals in Arco last year? I think he was.
Off the top of my head.
And there was some jump in the some middle section of the wall. So I think he fell just in that part.
Makes the jump nicely then, does really well through that section. He didn't really have quite as much hesitation. He actually looks like he's enjoying himself a lot there. Just a smile on his face, taking in the front row. Judges quite appreciating that down the front, gives him a little wink before carrying on.
Yeah, because this guy has a history of falling on off the jumps in lead wall, so he has to be happy for sticking it once in a while. When you fall quite sometimes on the jumps, you just start to hesitate more and more every time. That's what happens to Ramon from Spain. He just doesn't get his mental game back. I hope he returns next season or this season well, but he has to free up from these dynamic moves that modern lead climbing brought.
Earlier on we were just saying Kochira made the final here in Arco. I was just checking, it was actually Vilar, and he's in 2nd place. Not here in Arco, 14th in 2016 here. So he's already improved on that. Again, time likely to be an issue here. I don't want to sound like a broken record, but the cadence of moves, very important here. There's a lot of moves. There are a lot of moves on the women's routes, even more on the men's. It's an awful long way to the top. It takes in pretty much every meter of wall you can on this, the left hand as we look at it, section of the Arco wall, the orange section of the wall.
Kochira then gets a sneaky little smear off the sponsors' banners on the right-hand wall, and this is where we saw Yoshiyuki start to struggle to find the sequence. It did end up going up with the right hand, tucks it nicely there, finds the position really well in the end. This is where we saw Yoshiyuki take a good rest, but time is an issue. Still got a long way to go on this route, a lot of moves still to put in.
Yeah, awful long way to go. He's not halfway yet, but he's halfway through his time. The wall does get steeper, so I suspect you'd naturally climb a bit quicker anyway as the pump starts to kick in, but he'll have to climb an awful lot quicker. A bit quicker is not going to cut it right now. Kochira needs to find some pace. Of course, as we saw in the women's competition, there may be no tops. May not be a case of getting to the top, but either way, 2 minutes 30 does not leave him much time. Still not up to those very aesthetic pink blobs. which are just about to come into our shot. There they are. As we said to Adam Pustelnik, he does like an aesthetic route, Adam, and he's set one here in Arco. Really nice features.
Well,
we saw the triangular blue volumes on the women's route and the pink round volumes. I called them the blobs earlier, it's a bit harsh.
What's funny about that section, it is just 5 foot holder. There's probably about £1,000 worth of, or €1,000 worth of holes just in 5 foot holds there. So it's yeah, Route 6 obviously had a lot of toys to play with this weekend.
Yeah, volumes are so expensive nowadays, and all the holds that you see on the World Cups, that's not cheap. And if you want this in your gym, yeah, he fell on the crib that Yoshiyuki was fighting on. Which looks like quite a long move.
So that will put him behind the first athlete who came out, Yoshiyuki. He got 34 plus. We're just waiting for the score to update to see where Kochira Rdiger came in. Yeah, he looked really, really happy on the bottom of the route, smiling to the crowd and the judges off the dyno, but in the end he just powered out through the volumes.
Route setters seem upset.
Yes, so 34 plus for Yoshiyuki Ogata, one move behind him, Kochira Rdiger, Jakob Schubert, Hannes Puman, Thomas Johan, Max Rdiger, Adam Ondra and Alex Megos still to come. We could be in for quite the finale here in Arco. Kochira slowly taking his time to untie, just acknowledges the crowd, heads backstage and gets a final bump up from the MC. MC's done a great job this weekend. He's had a lot of MCing to do yesterday, and he's had a fair bit to do today. Still plenty to come, remember. Speed final at 7 p.m. That's in less than 40 minutes from now.
And then it's the duel after that.
And then the duel. So he's going to be a busy man.
Yes, exactly. But I think he has an easier job to do than the speakers out there. So the guys who are commentating, they have to entertain the crowd all the time, and they've also had the Rock Junior, and it still has to come tomorrow. So
I think it'll be a diet of throat lozenges and fruit tea tomorrow for him.
Exactly.
I know that feeling. So Jakob Schubert, he's out.
He's a fighter. He's a dynamic climber. He can climb faster.
So if you guys saw our semi-final live stream, you would have seen Jakob Schubert came off on one of the lower section in all comparison compared to Alexander Megos, but came down really looking at his skin, looking like he'd burnt through a lot of skin, and these volumes that he's going through here, really not good if your skin's thin.
Jakob Schubert, he was second here last year in Arco. This is the first lead World Cup for him of 2017, third in the European Championship, so it's not his first international competition. Massively, massively successful competition climber, both lead and boulder.
Jakob Schubert lines up the jump then, and he took a few months off this summer away from the competitions to go rock climbing, went bouldering out in Rocklands. You can actually see him looking at his skin early on in this route here. He's lining up the jump, but he's taking one look at his skin on the right hand side. There he is, you can see him looking at the skin once more. This is not a good sign from Jakob Schubert. He's clearly got the conditions of his skin on his mind. He's really stalled out here. This is not a good start from Jakob Schubert. He's only a few moves off the ground realistically, already struggling. I mean, we know this jump is tricky, but it's not that hard. Jakob Schubert just needs to get on with this now. Looks better from that view. You can really see how far around the corner it is. It must be a really nervy jump for these guys, and he looks like he's going to go for it this time. With the end, it was okay. It was a touch and go there for a second.
Yeah, interesting one. Adam Pustelnik, our chief route setter here in Arco, was over earlier, and he said that jump's kind of the first move. You've really got to go for it. There's no holding back on that one. There's no half measures. And Jakob, he didn't look as if he really enjoyed the look of that one, but he got it done. Nailed the move to the right, but it's a high-risk move, and you could tell he first looked around the arete and thought, blimey, that looks a long way.
Yeah, with only 5 quick draws clipped, and he's already used 2 minutes of his time. Jakob Schubert needs to get a move on here.
Again, possibly struggling with the skin slightly. Blows on his fingers, charts up again. That gives you some idea of how far he still has to go. That camera of ours is mounted just off the top hold here in Arco, and it's an awful long way down to Jakob Schubert. He's been at this level for a long time though, he knows what he's doing. easing his way into the route, but he will need to pick the pace up, and now he's onto the pink holds.
Hopefully now with a few in-cut holds you'll be able to stop worrying about your skin. Nicely done with the campus there. Incredible strength. Show of strength from Jakob Schubert. He really enjoyed that section where he didn't enjoy the lower dyno, but yeah, the skin possibly be a bit more to his favour now that he's onto some in-cut holds, but it goes back to volumes unfortunately in just a few moves time. With 3 minutes left, Jakob Schubert's got a lot of work to do here.
When you're under pressure, you usually forget about how bad your skin is, but it affects the friction because you sweat more.
Yeah, you tend to get really spongy fingertips, and that just pushes the moisture out through the tips. And yeah, unfortunately, with the holds this side, the fingertips are absolutely crucial to how you're going to feel.
But as I said, you can just turn off those things out of your head and just know what you have to do. But then when you just turn off the focus after you climb, you just figure out how much mess you made on your body. Also hesitating a bit here, doesn't really know what to do.
Seems to have been a theme throughout this finals. The women's route seems to be hard to read as well, and the men's also quite similarly difficult and quite slow to climb. Not really seen any athletes towards the top of the wall. It's only Jane Kim in the women's who really pushed through into the top third. Jakob Schubert, with under 2 minutes still to go, takes an opportunity to rest. But both Japanese athletes got quite a few moves higher up. It was Kochira Koronaga with 33 plus, and Yoshiyuki Ogata taking the lead at the moment with 34 plus. There's still a lot to do for Jakob Schubert. Seems to be just winding up the crowd a little bit.
Yeah, chalking up, wondering what to do next, but 1 minute 34 seconds is definitely not enough to go to the top.
Still could be enough to take the lead though.
Yeah, it could
And
be.
this route is, as Mike said, it's a slow route if you like. It would certainly seem at this stage, but may feel differently after we've watched a couple more climbers on it. For now though, Jakob Schubert gets a heel hook, gets both hands matched. There's the round pink volumes.
We haven't seen anybody jump to those yet, but let's hope it goes on for Jakob.
Yeah, yet to see a climber reach them. He's into his final minute of his attempt.
The bad volume. Now comes the crimp.
Jakob run with the crimp for Jakob. The crowd enjoying this.
Still looks good.
Jakob Schubert pushing for a new high point here above. Yoshiyuki
He knows he's running out of time.
does well, steps onto the pink volumes for the right feet then. 35 seconds left. You have to wonder how much he's considering the time here.
Still goes back to chalk up.
Still goes back to chalk up. I wonder if he's looking at the time. I don't know if I've seen him glance down, but he doesn't have much time. I suspect the best thing Jakob Schubert can do is just go for it from here. Try and get as many moves in as you can. And he walks his way up the pink volumes. Lovely work from the route setters. That really nice piece of climbing.
Now we
He's
have
got
some
the next
pockets.
clip.
But 7 seconds.
Now it gets physical. Jakob Schubert, he goes up with the left. He's into the final second of his attempt. He's lining it up. He's about to get timed out. He is timed out. I'm not sure he's aware of it. He will presumably look down at some stage. He might have heard the music stop. He's off anyway. Jakob Schubert on his way down applauds the crowd and they return the favour. Looks like he gave that one everything. Really interesting one actually.
Yeah, that was a really good show of endurance there from Jakob Schubert. He seemed to struggle slightly lower down on the route, took a lot of rest, didn't like the jump at the bottom, then didn't like the section through the volumes, but somehow just dug into his incredible reserve of endurance and quested up through the wall into the really steep section. There's only a couple more quick draws to go until the top of the wall, and that was our first look then. There you can see it, Jakob Schubert 39, Yoshiyuki Ogata has surpassed with just 34 plus, and Kochira Koronaga with 33 plus.
Really interesting climb there from Jakob Schubert. I mean, he was going very slowly in the lower section of that route, but he measured it pretty well. That's an early lead. He's ahead of the two Japanese climbers who were before him. Yeah. And he never really picked up the pace. He just kept up that steady pace and a few extra moves. We shall see what the tactics employed by the next 5 climbers are, but initially couldn't quite figure out what Jakob's plan was, but worked a treat. It's enough to take the lead. We'll see where it leaves him at the end of the competition.
I think it really showed that he knows his body better than anybody else. He knows what pace he should climb at, and he just found his steady rhythm. We thought it was a bit slow, but in the end, it was absolutely fine. And we see the Swedish athlete who had a great semi-final round, came out really early in the round. The score ended up being enough. It's Hannes Puman looking super focused here already. He actually had a little trip on the floor there as he stepped off kind of the rubber crumb edging. Tripped a little bit, didn't hurt himself luckily. Been the worst way to start a World Cup final.
He was in finals in Campitello in the European Championship. It was really fun to watch him climb because we really fought best he could and showed us some good and strong climbing.
So we're into the top 5 athletes here in Arco. We're already down to the top 5. Women's finals already gone past. Jane Kim took away the gold medal in that one in a slightly shock situation to finish.
Now it's Hannes Puman on the wall, 4th place in the European Championships in Campitello earlier this year. Seen him climbing in Vale and Meiringen as well earlier this year in the bouldering competitions. Quite the all-rounder, climber well worth keeping your eye on. And he's underway and already climbing at much faster pace than Jakob. Whether that proves in the long run to be the right tactic or not, we shall see. Just looking at that jump. Heads out with the right hand, and it looked it was in the balance for a second, but he just about stuck it. The feet followed him round and he controlled the swing nicely. Now he shakes out. It's the first psychological test out of the way, if you like. He's done a couple of moves, got used to the noise and the crowd, and he's underway.
Now comes a bit more endurant part. We'll see how much it will take the energy out of him, and hopefully he won't time out.
So just as we have Hannes Puman on the wall, very shortly we'll have a word from our current leader, Jakob Schubert. I believe we're ready, so let's hear from Jakob Schubert.
Jakob, really interesting route. It looked like you were pacing it quite a lot at the start, climbing quite slowly. Was that a plan?
Not really. No, I mean, I was kind of happy how many rests were. It was like a lot easier than expected, actually. I kind of messed up the jump in the beginning. Actually, it was like really different than we expected it to be. We thought we were gonna hold the edge and match the corner and then go right hand. But then the corner had like 0 friction and it was like impossible to do that. And at first I wasn't sure if it's just my skin or if it's actually meant like differently. And then I found out, oh, the hold is that close. You just gotta jump. But it took like some time there, and then I like had to recover, especially mentally. But yeah, it helped me that it wasn't so hard from there, so I could like really get into the flow. But then, I just got pumped.
Did you see you were short of time?
No, but I kind of like fought it because I took so much time and the voices were getting louder. So yeah, I didn't climb so well, but I think I got like most out of it. Like in the end, I don't feel like super strong in lead yet. I think I need like some more time. This route could have suited me like really well. I think it had like a lot of rests and actually wasn't really that hard, like no really hard moves up till there. So I think we'll see some guys getting super high up on this route for sure.
Well, you've got the current lead, so enjoy watching the rest of the final.
Yeah, I'm happy. I mean, I was super happy to make finals. I didn't have a good run in semifinals as well. It was like super hard. I really struggled with the heat today as well. It's so hot to climb. And yeah, I'm super psyched that I got like a pretty good result out of it. And I'm kind of like getting back into the lead flow and it's fun.
Well, it's good to have you back. Thanks for talking to us.
Thank you.
Yeah, we just saw Hannes Puman falling really early on the wall with that section that everybody struggled with the sequence. It was quite an unexpected fall from him, as we can see on the replay, and then he just slipped out and his hand went to his head. What have I done?
Excuse me, apologies to Hannes there. I wasn't aware he'd fallen. We only got Jakob Schubert a minute or two later than we would have liked. Apologies to Hannes, but good to see him in a World Cup final. I suspect it won't be the last.
Thomas Johannes on the start hold of the route. Yes, we didn't foresee that they looked the jump that they will match the edge. That's a really interesting thing to hear.
Yeah, that was a good insight from Jakob. They'd all identified doing it a certain way. I mean, you could see on his face, he kind of looked around the corner and thought, wow, that's a long way.
Yeah, it's a surprise because probably nobody thought of it, or the guys he looked the route with. So you get kind of shocked. So as he said, he recovered mentally after that.
Always good to chat to Jakob Schubert. You always get a pretty straight answer. Never one to dodge a question. He'll always tell you what he thought. And we were saying he needed to pick up the pace, but he's, after 4 climbers, in the lead.
Thomas wasn't hesitating here. He just went straight for the jump.
Yeah, didn't mess about at all there. Quite a tall climber. No problems. Heading out to the right. Now he chalks up much more time on the clock. We saw Jakob Schubert here with under 4 minutes to go. Thomas arrives best part of 5 minutes. He's been resting for a while already.
Like we saw in the women's route, it's actually really difficult to get out of these rests sometimes because psychologically you just don't want to move even though you have to. I am happy here, I do not want to go further.
Yeah, that's true. Have I rested enough? Am I still pumped? And then you come to a point where you get more and more pumped the more you rest. That's like a trap you have to avoid.
I know last time I went sport climbing outside, I ended up just trying to skip all the rest. I was getting more pump staying in than I did without.
Yeah, that's what boulderers do. Just go as fast as you can and try not to get pumped. It's so funny that at some point you just can't move anymore.
But speaking of boulders, we are starting to see more of the bouldering athletes competing in the lead as well. We've seen the likes of Jan Hoyer competing in the lead throughout this year. He took away the European Championships win and the World Cup win in Munich, so he's turning his hand to the lead as well. But at the moment it's the French athlete Thomas who's fighting. This is where we lost the previous athlete Hannes Buman. Not too happy on this section also. Do wonder if the friction's starting to play a part through this section. It is still super humid in Arco here tonight, super hot. That's where we lost Hannes Buman, but sticks it, has to dig in really hard. Tucks the head in, tucks the heel in. A real fight. Oh no, it wasn't meant to be.
So uncomfortable in there.
You can see, grabs his left foot. He had to really tuck the heel in. Takes one look at his skin, but I don't think it was that. I think it was the foot. He just got tucked in so hard. The body position was really, really awkward. Pushed him back off the wall. I'm sure we'll have another look what went wrong there, and he was thinking exactly that. What just went wrong?
Tarsuan, that was his first final of 2017. He's still wondering if he might have got higher on the route. Let's have another look. So he set himself, he got the heel hook in position.
And they just didn't.
I think that's what we were talking about, the low friction, the humid conditions. Brutal. Just trying to figure out which of the doors to use. Heads off stage, doesn't even acknowledge the crowd. Not a happy man. He might, in a couple of days, look back and think, hey, World Cup final, first one of the year, that's not too bad.
Yeah, that's always this first impression of falling down. You don't realize what you've done up to that point, and you just, damn, I could have done better, and you always think you could have done better. But then it takes some time just to cool down a bit, and then you realize what it means.
So Max Rdiger. I've already seen his compatriot Jakob Schubert. Jakob currently in the lead here in Arco.
Max Rdiger then put on a fantastic show in the semi-finals, was one of the few athletes to get into the roof section that we saw on the right-hand side of the wall here in Arco. Really seems to be full of power this weekend, just seems to have something in the tank on every single move. And yeah, it's an interesting final here with Jakob Schubert leading the way, clearly with 34 plus just behind from the Japanese athlete Yoshiyuki. So we're into the top three, the final three athletes, with Adam Ondra and Alexander Magos still to come. And if Max Rdiger wants to beat those two, got a feeling he's going to put in a stellar performance right now.
So here he is at the first move out to the right. We just heard his compatriot Jakob Schubert saying that the way he hoped he could do it didn't prove to be the eventual method.
He has to jump now. Come on.
And again makes it work. It's definitely a psychological move that the route setters have put that in just to nerve people, give them something to think about early on. And like Thomas Ioanni arrives here with only a minute on the clock, already got the jump done. I think often that approach of just have a look at the move and go for it, because you're going to go for it eventually, so there's no point thinking about it any longer.
I think you could see that on his head. He just shook his head thinking, yeah, it was all right, just bring yourself back together, it wasn't that bad. And you go into this next section, this is where we start to see some campusing through here. Max Rdiger looks like he's finding some foot options. This is good technical climbing here from Max. Has to cut the feet eventually, but bumps the right heel up. That's really neat climbing. Looks in such control all throughout the rounds this weekend.
It's good to see Max performing so well this weekend in Arco. I also know him since youth comps. He was good. Yeah, he was always a fighter, and by the way he looks, you can say that he is just born to fight somehow, right? He might have been unlucky in a couple of competitions, but being in finals, he'll hopefully use this opportunity to show his strength, because he is strong.
Here we go into the next section then. He's looking a lot more composed than Hannes Puman was, and Thomas Jones from France. Opts for the left toe rather than the heel, but we're starting to see some problems here. You can see what they're up against. Just needs to bump up the right hand or go straight up to the left hand hold. Hesitates slightly.
But it goes slowly, yeah.
Hits it nicely and just ends up standing up with ease off the left toe rather than the left heel. Max Rdiger then looking in really good shape, and it's his compatriot Jakob Schubert is currently leading the way. So Team Austria looking in a good position here so far in the finals, with just 2 athletes left after Max.
He looks fresher than Jakob did, and we can see now how Thomas actually, he was pumped in this section, that's why his heel hook didn't work up. But Max looks quite solid in this part. Let's see how he moves on.
There's only 2 climbers still to come after Max, so if he can pass Jakob Schubert's high point, he's already guaranteed a podium. A lot of moves, of course, still to come, but plenty of time on the clock for him. And as you said, Stasha, fighting hard, you'd expect nothing less. And we saw, Jakob got the double clip from that same position.
Jakob had 30 seconds on this point, and now we can see Max having 2 minutes 35. So a long way to go, and hopefully enough time, because now he's come to the overhang part with a lot of pots and one more quick draw before the top.
Everyone really excited to see this next section then. It's Max Rdiger. Oh! He looks so composed, so happy. Frustration on his face, and rightly so. 2 minutes plus still on the time. Falls off, firing up to the next left hand. Well, that was interesting, because Jakob Schubert actually matched that hold. Rolled up to the left hand. Max tried to fire up to it from the lower hold. Seemed to just get a bit stretched. Let's hopefully we'll have another look at exactly what went wrong there, but we're just saying how good Max was looking, and then all of a sudden his try was over.
Interesting, Jakob Schubert already guaranteed a place on the podium. Only 2 climbers still to go. That was enough to put Max in second. 38 plus for him to Jakob Schubert's 39. And now the MC has a moment he's been looking forward to. We'll hang on just a second, just to confirm there. Jakob Schubert, Max Rdiger. These Austria 1 and 2. Yoshiyuki Ogata, Kochira Rdiger. Japan 3 and 4. Thomas Ioanni in 5th. And Hannes Puman in 6th place.
Now comes the fun part. And because Adam doesn't compete so often in World Cups, it's like a Shima. Like, everybody wants to see what's going to happen. It's like the show of the day.
He adds a different energy to it. I remember we were up a couple of days ago, and one of the cherry pickers, we looked down on the venue and we could see all these kids sprinting across the field. And Adam had literally just walked into the field here at Arco, and he's so recognisable. He's a head taller than anyone else in the climbing world, it seems. Distinctive haircut, and as soon as he appeared, he's just a rock star. Everyone flocked around him, and people like Alex Megos and Ashima, they got plenty of autograph requests themselves, but nobody like Adam. And it's a different game for him, and it's great to have him back in the World Cups. It feels like it changes the energy.
Because Adam is always in Arco, he doesn't miss a comp here, and people love him in this area. He climbs a lot here, and he's sprinting now through the first part.
He is absolutely flying through these first couple of moves. That's 3 quick draws clipped, and he's only 15 seconds into his attempt. He's been climbing outdoors a huge amount up in Flatanger in Norway, recently got back into training for this competition, but he doesn't seem to think by his stratospheric standards he's in the best competition shape he's been in his life. Generally, it's more than enough.
He wants to match. Oh God, no.
No, he thought about it, so he was thinking.
He reached. Oh God. Okay, this is funny.
Same thought process. Jakob Schubert tried the match, didn't like it.
I suppose Jan Hoer will do the same thing here.
I suspect so. Yeah. He's very tall, Adam Ondra.
We talked about
that with ease.
We talked about it in the semi-final a little bit with Campbell Harrison, the Australian athlete, the difference between the taller climbers and the shorter climbers, and I think overall it balances itself out through the season, but that move definitely helped Adam Ondra. No such difficulties with cutting loose, and the way he was looking at that initially with the left heel and matching the erect would have been super risky, and everybody got a little bit panicked here for a second with just 2 climbers left in the competition, Adam Ondra being one of them. But now then, resets, has his rest. This is classic Adam Ondra climbing now.
This is the climb that says, I want to kill this wall, I just want to crush everything.
That was pretty cool there. He just drops into a completely hands-off rest, wedging his head against the wall, I think. Seems to be completely set.
Oh,
he
likes to make the show, always. He always does it.
Oh, Adam giving the crowd their money's worth here. I love that. Kind of a head jab. It's hard to tell if his head's actually touching the roof. I can only assume it is from the angle of
more of a hair jab.
Yes, his curls definitely are.
He's lucky he didn't have a haircut last week. I don't think that would have worked. Yeah. He's climbing again now, though. Took a long rest there.
Crimpy part now. Knows he has to go fast. And you see how he changes the pace. He goes really quick and then rests. Really quick and rests. And it works for him perfectly fine.
So we saw a more measured climb from Jakob Schubert, who's currently leading the way with 39, but Adam Ondra sticking to his usual style that's done him no harm in the past, the current world champion. We see Adam Ondra pushing through this next section, pushing towards the top of the wall, taking the lead with 1 climber still to come.
Sticks the move, goes up, stands up easily.
Very controlled. It's that heel hook that slipped for Thompson. Adam doesn't use it as a heel hook, he just used it with his toe. Now he's heel hooking with the right hand and the left. Has a quick shake out, the crowd cheer.
Come on, Adam.
They know they're watching one of the greats here. He says he's not in fantastic competition shape. It was enough to get him through from the semi-finals in 2nd place. Not too bad by most people's standards, but he's here to win in Arco. We've seen it before. We could see it again here. Works his way up the arete. Plenty of time, 2 minutes 30. We've seen none of the men on the very steepest section of the wall, which, just to give you some idea, begins where that volcano is. Just at the top of your screen, just a metre or so above Adam's left hand. That's where the steepest section really begins. And Adam is heading there now. He's got plenty of time. He chalks up. He's got a relatively comfortable rest. The knee drops. Now he begins to head out left.
Those are 2 finger pockets in the first 2 of them. That is a bigger jug. And then we have some 360 turns. Let's see how he handles with that one, because we saw Jakob Schubert taking one of the first pockets.
So Jakob Schubert timed out on the next hold. That's hold number 39. I've just checked the judges' sheet. So Jakob Schubert,
oh, come on,
still
he
in
had
the lead.
troubles with his right hand. He just couldn't control the volcano, and he tested it once with just letting his left hand go and catched back, but obviously the left hold surprised him, and wow, that's
a real shock here in Arco, and everybody feels it has a very Janja Garnbret feel about it. Just fell when we didn't expect it. Adam Ondra looks at his skin. To be honest, he looks gassed. Let's have another look. Exactly the same method as Jakob Schubert goes to the match. Adam had tons of time still in the bank. Not really sure what happened there. Would love to hear from him exactly what went down. A real shock here in Arco. Adam Ondra will not be winning this competition. He does go into 2nd place with 1 climber still to come, so he will go on to the podium.
So this is fascinating. When Jakob Schubert was climbing, I couldn't believe the pace he was going at. It just seemed far too slow, but he seemed either judged it or got lucky, but it was absolute perfection as it turns out, and he is leading the way. He's guaranteed at least 2nd, no matter what Alexander Megos does. He leads the way, 39 plus, 38 plus. for Adam Ondra. He goes ahead of Max on count back to the previous round, and then it's Yoshiyuki Ogata, Kochira Koranaga, Thomas Johan, and Hannes Pumin.
And now Megos. Let's see what he is up to.
So the final climber out, then Alex Megos absolutely stormed the semi-finals, way higher than any other athlete. Everybody's looking forward to this moment. One of the greatest rock climbers of all time, relatively inexperienced in terms of competition climbing, even though he's won a few bits and bobs around the circuit. But Alexander Megos, then it's going to be all eyes on him, the final climber out in what has been a quite interesting final round here in Arco.
He said for the semifinals that it was his route, and he really liked it, and that's why he did so well. And let's see if this one is his as well.
So let's wait to hear the roar then. The fans are all looking up, giving us a wave, and they'll be waiting for Alex Megos. He comes out, huge smile on his face. I'm not sure if that's a nervous smile or he's just that kind of guy.
Yeah, I think he's that kind of guy because he always smiles to the crowd, and he has this funny pants of his.
Okay, just as Alexander Megos makes the start, let's hear from the man who's just off the wall. It's Adam Ondra.
Adam, you're fresh down from the wall, still out of breath. Just talk us through that. It looked like conditions were terrible.
Conditions were probably the worst I've ever seen on a lead World Cup. Like, it's maybe the temperature is a little lower than on the semi-final, but the humidity just increased by like so much. So actually up to there where I fell, I was pretty pleased with my climbing. Like, it was hard and pumpy, but I somehow managed to compose myself. But then I was like, got this underclink on the volcano. There was a little chip, you had to match it, but like my forearm was sweating so much, and I had to like kind of lean my forearm against the volcano. And first time I kind of like even rested, then I actually went for the move, and my forearm was so sweaty that I just couldn't do it anymore.
And that was the keys to the route. I mean, did you get a chance to have a look at the rest of the route from observation? Do you think a guy like Alex Megos can top it?
I'm not sure if he can top it, but I'm pretty sure he can get pretty far. Like, it's pumpy route, and to get much further, I just didn't have the fitness and endurance today.
Hey, it's great to have you back in the World Cups, and let's go watch Alex. Thanks, Adam.
Thanks.
So just to return our attention back to Alex Megos, who's actually struggling. He's not known for his dyno skills, more of a rock climber. And Alex Megos falls at the bottom of the route. That is an absolute shocker. It's going to be Jakob Schreiber who takes the victory. An incredible performance. Everybody stunned silence here.
Okay, nobody expected this to happen. Neither he did.
Megos had all sorts of issues on the bottom of that route. Doesn't like a dyno at the best of times, and definitely doesn't like him here in Arco. Alex Megos looks extremely upset with himself. Wow, what a way to finish the competition. A real shame it had to finish on such a sad note, unfortunately. The route setters did say they didn't expect anybody to fall on that route. And it is Jakob Schreiber who takes the win. Let's have another look back. He never looked comfortable and just came up way too short on the jug. And it looked like a nervous move for all of the athletes. And in the end, maybe it was the nerves that got the better of Alex Megos in the end. Or maybe he just doesn't like jumps.
Sorry, I was being slightly cheeky when I asked Adam Ondra whether he thought Alex Megos could top it. I don't think anyone predicted that. Extraordinary stuff here in Arco. What a finish we've had. And Jakob Schreiber, who it seemed at the time was not leaving himself anything like enough time, has won here in Arco. He puts Adam Ondra in second, and Austria pick up their second medal of the day. Max Rdiger takes third. Yoshiyuki Ogata, Kochira Koranaga make it Japan 4 and 5. Over in the women's competition, it will be Kim who wins. Two veterans back on the top step of the podium, Jane Kim and Jakob Schreiber, and Sophie Koller, Janja Garnbret rounding out the podium. Julia Shanodi, Shimi Shirashi, Annette Verhoeven, Jessie Pilz and Molly Thompson-Smith rounding it out.
We had so many surprising things happening in this finals. It was so interesting and so unexpected.
So that's it for our lead coverage here in Arco. Still plenty of action to come though. The speed final starts in just 10 minutes time. We've got the Youth World Championships next week in Innsbruck, and then in the 23rd and 24th of September we will be in Edinburgh for the next Lead World Cup. Hope to see you then.